I'd like to welcome everybody here this afternoon to the MassMEP webinar that will help you to get ready to get training to keep your business safe and healthy through Workforce Training Fund grants. I'm Lisa Derby-Oden, the Project Development Coordinator with MassMEP, and I'm going to be your moderator here today. We also have Matt Healy behind the scenes, and he's the MassMEP Information Technology Manager. He's making sure that if we have any technical issues that we can get them straightened out in quick time. We have two panelists today. One is Jim Gusha, and he's the Project Development Manager for MassMEP. He's going to talk to you a little bit about Workforce Training Fund grants. And then we also have, as our special panelist, Darcy Cook, who's the owner of Cook Professional Resources, Inc., DBA Safety Trainers. Again, I want to thank you all for joining us. As you can see right now, your mics are all muted, but you will be able to engage with us through polls, chat, and the question and answer. Note where the chat is located. It's down on the bottom of the menu bar there. Please use the chat option so that you can chat amongst yourselves, as this will be the area that will allow you, a variety of you, to share your questions, thoughts, and ideas. We will have some polls that will pop up throughout the webinar. They will be on a time limit once they have closed, and we will post the results, and Darcy will be able to use the results in conjunction with her webinar content. So it's important to try to be timely with those. We do have an hour set aside for this webinar today. We know that that'll be plenty of time for the content, and upon completion of the webinar, you will receive a notification to complete an evaluation of this webinar. MassMEP uses the evaluations to provide data for these trainings and insight for continuous improvement on the training content itself that is delivered by our internal staff and by our third parties. We're recording the webinar today for proprietary and internal training purposes. After the completion of the training, we will release the video and content, which will be the slide deck, of the webinar to all in attendance. This will be released to everyone no later than the middle of next week. Due to the importance of this subject matter, we do recommend that you reach out to a MassMEP trusted advisor or to safety trainers for a one-on-one meeting to review the details provided. Contact information will be provided at the end of the webinar. Please do note that the content is to be used for internal staff educational purposes only, and understand the information provided in the webinar is proprietary to MassMEP and safety trainers, and will by no means be used for any other promotional purposes other than within your organization. Now we will begin our webinar for today, Navigating a Pandemic, with our panelists. So let's go ahead and begin with Jim Gusha. Jim, take it away.
Good afternoon, Friday afternoon. We have a lot of content to share this afternoon, so we'll get right into it. We're going to start off with just a little bit of information on the Workforce Training Fund grant and the options available to you through that grant for including navigating in a pandemic into one of these training grants. We've got a couple of training grants we're going to talk about here, and we'll get started. All right. So the first thing I want to tell you about is the website. And you're going to get this slide deck. So there's not a lot of slides here, but this will have a link in it right to the Workforce Training Fund if you haven't already visited it. And it has a lot of good information in it. I pulled out some of that information and included it in this presentation, but by no means is it all the information that you might want for your own purposes. So keep that in mind. The link is right here, and you can explore their website. A lot of good information in there. We have 3 programs available to us as employers through the Workforce Training Fund program. The Commonwealth Corporation manages the program for the state. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about first here is the Express program. And because of that, it's important for us to know how many employers here on the webinar are under 100 employees, and that's the poll question. So how many employees are there in your company? And I see we've got some good respondents coming in. Lisa, how long do we keep this questionnaire or question out there?
I just think a couple more seconds probably, because we're getting close to the number.
Okay.
There.
Okay. I'm going to.
So those poll results are being shared right now. There were nine that are over 100, and there's 20 that are under 100. So a total of 31% over and 69% under.
Okay. I don't know if I delete that. Okay, I did. So, so we're going to talk first about the Express Grant Program. And these three programs here, the Express, the General Grant, and the Direct Access Program, are all available through the Workforce Training Fund, as I mentioned. The Express Grant is specifically for companies with less than 100 employees. So this first part of the discussion will be focused on those employers. The General Grant, and we're going to get into detail a little bit more about the Express Grant Program in the next slide. The General Grant Training Grant is for companies of any size. So companies with less than 100 can also apply for the General Grant, and certainly those that are over 100, that's really your only option at this point if you want to use the Workforce Training Fund Grant Program. And I'll get into detail on that program as well. Direct Access Program are programs that have already been pre-approved, and the providers such as MassMEP have a grant through the Direct Access Program to offer specific training classes that we've already had gone through a grant process. It's only available to companies for 100 employees or less again, but you can have multiple grants going. So a company with 100 or fewer employees could actually have all three of these grants going at the same time. That's a lot of training, but just something to consider. So I'm going to jump into the next slide, which is the Express Grant. As I mentioned, we have a poll question to help us here. Has any of the companies here have accessed let me restate that. Have you had an Express Grant previously, or have you got one open right now? But I see the poll question is there's a lot of companies that have not had an Express Grant, and the Express Grant Program is an excellent program for companies under 100 employees to be able to access funding. So let me leave that up for a couple of more seconds. I see some companies are not sure, and that's okay. So Lisa, it looks like 19% of us, of the companies, have accessed the Express Grant Program before. 21% have not accessed it. And
66% have not.
I'm sorry, 21 companies, 66%, thank you. And then there's 16% of the companies that aren't sure, that maybe not in that position to know whether or not they've had one. So I'm going to stop sharing that at this point. I'll stop sharing, close it. How do I close it? There it is. Okay. So companies accessing the Express Grant program have to select their courses from a list of pre-registered courses. So courses on the Express Grant program are courses that providers like the MassMEP have submitted their course descriptions to the state and met the criteria that the state has for listing courses on their website. So that link that you have will, at the beginning of this slide deck, will allow you to access that list of pre-approved courses. This course is a pre-approved course. Must select courses from that. The Navigating a Pandemic is an approved course. Eligible employees have to complete a short online application. And if you've accessed the Express Grant previously, the grant application process has changed, and you'll be happy with the change that has taken place. It's a very simple form. There's no narrative. It's selecting your course and how many people will be attending, etc. It's very short process. You do need a couple of things, and we'll go over that shortly. Grant funds are limited to $30,000 per company per calendar year, and $3,000 per employee per course. So a company whose request has been approved will be reimbursed for up to 50% of the actual cost of the training. So if a program is a $500 program, you'll pay for the course and you actually get reimbursed $250. And it's a very, very quick, simple process to get your money back into your coffers. Training can begin approximately 4 weeks from the application if approved. So used to be 6, they've cut down the processing time to 4 weeks. So if you apply for an Express Grant, you can get right back to training within 4 weeks. We've seen it less than 4 weeks, but they state 4 weeks just to give, depending on the amount of grants that are being submitted, so they have enough time to be able to process them all. Okay, so information that you'll need when applying for an Express Grant. So before you start your application, and the application is a live application, so that if you leave the application during the process and close out, that information is lost. So you want to have this data with you before you apply. Your FEIN number, your federal ID number, your Department of Unemployment Assistance number. You'll need to probably, before you apply for the grant, apply for your certificate of good standing. It's an electronic program. Matt is going to put that into the, I think, the questionnaire, some information that is available on this webinar. And you should be able to do it right online. Most times, I recommend companies, financial person, be asked to submit this program because there's some information that's needed directly from them. That turns around within a day or two if everything is in good shape. In most cases, that is the situation. Courses, course information from the Express Course Directory. This particular course, Navigating a Pandemic, is course number, well, you see the number, 1125526. And the cost of it will be covered in Darcy's presentation. Your contact information, how many employees are going to be working or work in Massachusetts, and then they want a list of employees that will be trained. And again, the 4-week time frame is what you need to consider. Grant ranges. Okay, so we're going to switch from the Express Grant. I think that's enough information for you and after we talk, we can do some question and answer on that. The general grant, and I'll go through this quickly because the general grant ranges from $10,000 to $250,000 and awarded competitively to employers. You can only train employees who are regular employees to your site. You can't train temporary employees or summer interns, those types of things. It's mainly for incumbent workers. Companies of any size with a workforce in Massachusetts are eligible. Training programs must be completed within 2 years. Again, you'll need your certificate of good standing before you apply. And during the training, all trainees must be paid their regular rate during the training period or training hours. So that this grant is really made up of a matched dollar for dollar by grant recipients. So what that means is that for every dollar you request from the state, your employee time plus benefits makes up the amount that your match will be. So if your course is $100, you need $100 in match or employee time in order to be able to offset that cost. So it's a one-to-one match. There are other things that can be taken into consideration in match, but that's the predominant and primary amount of money that would be considered to be put toward your match calculation. Grants must be matched for dollar, I just said that. And then new news, companies that have had grants before and have closed them less than a year hadn't been able to reapply. They'd had a 1-year waiting period before they could reapply for another grant. As of yesterday, we just got notification that companies having previous general grant closed don't have to wait that 1 year. So if you closed it yesterday, you can reapply for a new one today. So that's kind of great news, I think. And then we are going to be doing an information session with our partner, the Associated Industries of Massachusetts. There's a webinar coming up. You can go to our website and click on this link here. And June 24th at 11:30, they'll be going over a more detailed overview of the general grant process. And it does give you a lot more detail and what you need to consider when you're doing a general grant. Okay, so we'll leave it open to questions, but we can hold on those questions if you'd like. Darcy, we can hold on that until we're finished. Our contact information, myself and Lisa are the people in our organization who work with our project managers to help develop both the express and the general grant applications. So feel free to contact us if you have any questions. And with that, I will close. Was there any questions I need to answer before we move forward, Lisa?
No, there aren't any questions yet in the Q&A. So I'd just like to remind everybody that we also have that Q&A function available. And as you have questions come up, go ahead and throw them in there, and we'll make sure that we try to get them answered as the presentation is going.
Okay, thank you.
My turn?
Your turn.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So I can't be more excited about what MassMEP has been able to accomplish on your behalf in a very short window. For many of you, you probably joined us and participated in the 5 webinar series. What got you going kind of in your do-it-yourself, the DIY kind of piece. And now maybe you're feeling like you need a little help, or you're just running out of time and resources. And so you're here to figure out, how can I possibly get this funded and get someone else helping to carry some of the burden of responsibility and getting this completed and making some decisions. So if you're here for those reasons, you're in the right place. Let me kind of walk you through this, first of all, so that you understand what this program is not. So this course is not about OSHA standards. We're not going to go to an OSHA regulation, talk about an OSHA regulation, teach you about those OSHA regulations. That's not what this is for. What we want to do is, you have been tasked, required by the state of Massachusetts to have certain things done in order to open your business. Now, it came in the direction of a check-off list that you also have to sign. So what this program is designed to do, it's designed to help you get one of the most critical parts of it together, help you make decisions, create change, and build safety and health in your business. At the same time, you're writing it all down on what we're calling the control plan. This document at the end of 12 hours of being with us is something that you're going to be able to use ongoing. We want to build the foundation because pandemic isn't going away. We're in this till the end of the year, till next year. I mean, we haven't even gotten to our 4th phase yet. And every day there are changes that companies and businesses have to be making. And so you want a form that you can scale up and scale down based on what's happening, because that piece of paper is also how you're going to train and educate and communicate out to your workforce. And more importantly, I don't know what's more importantly, and in addition to that, if someone should come knocking on your door and say, hey, we got a complaint, can you show us and tell us what you're doing? You've got this piece of paper that maps out everything that you've done. You've made revisions on it. You've trained your employees in it. I mean, you are going to be rock solid if you get that knock on the door. So I want you to think about what this program is in relationship to this slide. We all want to get back to business. We can't just turn the light on and walk into our business. What's happening with regulation, directives at a local, state, and federal level, and the CDC guidelines is, again, a daily change. I want you to think about our relationship and the document that we're talking about you creating in our workshop as a light switch with a dimmer switch on it. So this document is going to, sometimes you're going to have to turn it up and sometimes we're going to turn it down. That means everything that we're doing has to be duplicatable and editable. And that's, I think, the real value behind the way we're mapping out this program. It's got 10 sections to it. It might feel a little heavy. And to be honest with you, at the end of the day, this looks good, right? Here's what the deliverable it is. We're going to take all these 10 things. We're not going chapter by chapter. It's already built into what we have for you. So when the 12 hours is up, you will have completed all 10 sections of this. The tangible is you aren't going to have extra homework. Have you ever attended a training program where they told you what you needed to do, and then when the training was over, you still had a blank piece of paper and you still needed to go find hours in your day now, and you didn't have time before or else you would have done it, right? But now you got to go find more hours in your day to go do what someone just told you needed to do. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do and then expect you to go on your own and figure it out. The workshop's designed that we walk through every section together, you make choices and decisions together, and we get it on the paper because I'm going to give you the actual template. You're going to get a COVID, or let's just call it a control plan template, that as you're doing the workshop, we're filling the whole thing out. So at the end of 12 hours, this is something we can actually print and train on. And that's pretty exciting stuff. So we asked you guys, hey, how you feeling in relationship to what you've already done with your control plan? Because it's not new information now. I mean, and you're here, so clearly you know you need to do it. Some of you haven't started yet. Some of you kind of need to make edits or tweaks to it. And others of you are almost done, right? So we've got 10 of you almost done, 5 of you in the middle, 6 that haven't started yet, and the rest of you are like, I'm not answering that question. That's okay, because no matter where you are in this phase, this program, I actually executed this program 12 hours in the last 2 days, okay? Because the company wanted to rush it through. This company knew nothing about safety. They are not a high hazard risk area. So they had no OSHA stuff ever really done the way it was supposed to be done. And in 12 hours, I was able to take this company from nothing to everything that they needed in a robust control plan, educating their team, educating the owners of the company. They made their decisions and they're ready to train their people on Tuesday. Now that's efficient. That's what we've kind of built in here for you. So if you're towards the end and we just need to tweak it and modify it, and you need to be comfortable with the definitions or the terminology that the state of Massachusetts is putting out, great, we're going to get to there in no time. You're in the middle, you did what you knew you needed to do, but you need help on the stuff that you don't. That's great. That's what we're here for in this program. And then for those of you who haven't started, I'm telling you, I just did it with a client. I know it can be done. I know it can be done in 12 hours, and I know what the outcome is going to look like. You'll sleep better. The weight and stress of this will be off your shoulders as a result of this workshop style format. So let's go on and let's show you the details as we come into the program. Who should attend? The first question I'm going to ask you, should you decide to do this 12-hour workshop with us, you need to have people on the web or in the room who can make a decision. Okay, so typically you're looking at who already is making safety decisions. Did you choose a coordinator yet for your COVID or pandemic? Do you have a safety committee? Clearly, we're going to need someone from an HR perspective, an operations perspective, and an owner or a VP, an executive, someone who can actually say, this is the final decision. It makes it a much smoother process. And again, it doesn't leave you guys with any homework at the end of the day after we've completed the program. As I just quickly mentioned, would you guys like it virtual or would you like it on site? Keeping in mind that we keep the distances, right? So we can also be on site, and some of you could actually be sitting in an office if that makes you more comfortable. But I have to be honest with you in terms of the virtual versus on site. I still like engaging with you and seeing you. And I find that when we do something on site, everyone's more comfortable, they make quicker decisions, and it's a little easier for us to engage. Can this be delivered virtually? Absolutely. Look at what we're doing now. We've been doing this for months now. We're experts at the virtual. I just miss all of you. So you're going to have a choice to be able to implement this from a virtual perspective or from an a setting in your facility. Either way, you get the options around that. So I see that in terms of your interest, we thank you for sharing us because it helps us plan better. This is really going to be group-led discussion. I've got a 64-page book. So let me kind of explain this for you. When this workshop is done, because we're really rolling up our sleeves and getting sweaty and dirty with this, right? We're going to get the work done in the class. Once we've gotten that done, you're like, how do I remember everything that Darcy told me? What if someone challenges what we're doing and why we're doing it? Where did you get that information? How do I get that information? Where does it get cited from? As a result of this program that you go through, when I'm done, I leave you with a 64-page workbook. Okay, or a guide. Let's not call it a workbook. It's a guide. It's where you can flip back to the pages and read what I was saying to you, and you'd be like, oh, that's why we decided it that way. Or if you have to explain to someone, this is why we decided it that way. So you're going to have this great guide in addition to the completed tangible of the plan itself. So let's see my next slide here. I'm getting so excited. So right now, in terms of delivery, I will probably be the key facilitator for your programming. So if you've kind of been on my webinars and you've built, we built this virtual relationship together. We've never met before. I saw the registration list. Some of you, we know, we've worked together. We've had relationships before, so it might be an easier transition, but I will be the initial facilitator for you. I will have other team people working with me along the side so that we can deliver the best product for you, your company, your industry, and your team. It will be 12 hours. You get to decide how we're delivering those modules, okay? Do you want to do it in 4 3-hour days? Do you want to do it in 3 4-hour days? We could rush it a little bit more if you needed to. It's what are you up to? I mean, I don't want to make this a sprint, but we're really not in a marathon. We are against the clock to get your business open. So you guys decide, Darcy, how much, you decide and tell Darcy how much you can retain and how much you can tolerate in terms of really brain thinking power during this process. And for some of you, again, who are kind of at the end of the finish line, like you're almost ready to cross it, maybe it's something that can be done in less days, but we can figure that out. It's really going to be around your schedule. Here's the cost. So in the Express grant, we've listed it at $4,200. For those of you, let's see, they had 20 companies that were, or 21 companies that haven't had an express grant before, who potentially are interested. That's why you're here. So you would get this program at $2,100 if you are less than 100 people going for the express grant. If you are larger than 100 people and you decide to go for the Workforce Training Fund grant and put this program in it, then you're actually going to get it at no cost. So I couldn't be more excited for all of you. Most of the time, things that you are mandated to do and required to do as it relates to safety, nobody ever gives you funds for it. Nobody ever supports you or helps you at all. And so this is a really unique opportunity for all of you listening. This isn't the norm. You don't usually get safety stuff paid for. So if you can take full advantage of this, I strongly and highly encourage you to do so in terms of this program. That's, again, why I'm so excited for you. And we don't want to leave you hanging. Through MassMEP, we have been successful at getting other programs in safety and health approved. So I'm giving you a slide. You'll get the slide deck. This is just some of the other things. If you don't, at first glance, understand what the title actually means, reach out to us. We'll explain it to you. And in addition to some safety and health stuff, there are lots of other programs at MassMEP. So if we're going to write an express grant for you, and we're going to write potentially a Workforce Training Fund grant, now might be the right time. Why, Darcy? Why should I look at these other things? Great question. Glad you asked. Here's the thing. When I start talking to you about how have you rearranged your office, how have you rearranged your manufacturing floor, how have we changed shipping and receiving, how are we receiving in our raw materials and putting them through the process, you know what that screams to me? Lean, continuous improvement. These are all things that MassMEP already has in place. So if we have to reorganize your building layout design, why not get MassMEP and their experts that can look at your place and be like, here's how we comply, here's how we can make changes, here's funding support and training to make it happen. I mean, we don't want to just, we're not just kind of dangling, they say dangling the carrot. We're not just giving you a carrot. We got a whole bunch of carrots for you. We want to make sure that walking through this process, we customize the delivery and the plan that works best for you. So you've attended the webinar series, potentially the 5 that we just did. You're here looking at, should I do this pandemic workshop so that my control plan gets written? And then on the other side, you still have mandatory trainings. The state still bullet pointed out a bunch of trainings that you have to get done. If you need help with those, we've also got that for you. Our goal here is to get your business open, get this off your to-do list, keep everyone safe and healthy, and do it in partnership. What we have to do this year clearly will change in terms of next year and the year after. So look at all of us as this trusted partner and advisor that can guide you guys through this whole process. My saying is we're all in the same storm, but we're not necessarily all in the same boat. So let's figure out what we need to do to keep your boat afloat and get everyone back to work safely through this process that we're excited to offer you today. So last poll question is right out there, giving you what we want to know in this poll question is, if you were going to do this workshop with us, how many people do you think need to be in this workshop based on your company? Are we going to be working with 3 people? Are we going to be working 3 to 5 people? Or is it going to take 5 or more people in a room or on a webinar for us to finish up this plan? Okay, so that's really what this reach out or ask is. And you might not know 100% who the final people would be, but this gives us a good indication of what that dynamic would be and what we need to bring to the table to help support you. All right, Lisa, it's back to you.
Back to me, huh? So it's sounding like then we have concluded with the content part of our presentation today. We have had a variety of questions come up in the Q&A that we've been answering as we've gone along here. There's one that we didn't get to, and maybe Jim can pipe in on this one, so let's go ahead and ask it live. As a very small employer, they have 4 to 6 people there. Can we apply for all 3 types of grants? You want to take that one, Jim?
Oh, there it is. I was
There
looking for my unmute. Yes, you can apply for all three. You'd be limited in terms of how much you could use in each. I think the Express Grant, you shouldn't have any problem. The direct access, you shouldn't have any problem with. The general grant, there's got to be a minimum of $10,000 in training to be considered. And I don't believe there is a size requirement, except I think it has to be more than one person. But I can confirm that.
So there's
There was a question that was asked that Lisa responded to the individual, and that was with regard to if you've already got an open grant under the general program, whether you could include this in that training. And the response is what Lisa had mentioned was you could include it. However, you'd have to make put in a change request to the Commonwealth Court. You would have to remove something of equal value to be able to put this in. You can't add it in addition to what you've already been approved for. And the change request process is not that complex at all. And you shouldn't have any problem making that change. We just went through it with another company, and it was very quick and simple. Okay, I'm done.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for that input. It doesn't look like there's any other questions here right now. We've got contact information up here on this thank you for attending slide. And with that,
I've got one more
Okay.
note that I made, and that is I talked about how quick you might be able to access the Express Grant program, which is within 4 weeks. But the general grant, just for those people who have not been involved with the general grant, the process can take 3 to 4 months in order to be able to get your application together, submit it, go through the approval process, and then go through the contracting process. So it does take, I'd say 3 months on the best case to be able to start your training. So that might be a little long for some people. Anyway, that was all I wanted to say.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jim. You have any other closing words, Darcy?
No, except I'm just excited for all of you.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I want to thank our panelists today. A lot of great information here about training that's available now and how to get it paid for now. There will be a short evaluation here coming up at the end of the webinar. We hope that you will take that. It helps us to improve our process and our content. And other than that, I hope you have a wonderful Friday afternoon and a great weekend coming up. And we look forward to working with you as a trusted advisor in the future.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.